I never thought I'd see the day when my own flesh and blood would push me out of the business I built from nothing. For 40 years, I turned Valley Creek Stables from a rundown farm in Kentucky bluegrass country into one of the most prestigious thoroughbred breeding operations in America. $6 million, that's what Forbes valued it at last year. But apparently, to my son Tyler, I was just another old horse that needed to be put out to pasture. Last Christmas, while everyone gathered around our massive stone fireplace at the ranch house, Tyler handed me a small gift box with a smirk on his face. Inside was a plastic toy pony, a dollar store trinket. "Something to remember the good old days," he said, while my grandkids giggled. What they didn't know was that I'd discovered Tyler's dirty little secret, a secret that would bring down everything he'd stolen from me. By the end of our annual Derby Day party, the entire horse breeding community would know exactly what kind of man my son really was. I wasn't born into the horse business like some of these Kentucky blue bloods. My father worked the coal mines in West Virginia, and we had exactly one horse, an old quarter horse named Buck who pulled our plow when the tractor broke down. But I fell in love with thoroughbreds when my uncle took me to Churchill Downs when I was 12. I still remember the thundering of hooves, the smell of dirt and sweat, and those magnificent creatures straining with everything they had. I moved to Lexington in my 20s with nothing but a beat-up truck and enough savings to lease 20 acres of marginal pasture land. Started small, boarding other people's horses, saving every penny. When I met my wife Charlotte, she was working as a veterinary assistant at Keeneland. She believed in my dream more than I did sometimes. We lived in a double-wide trailer on the property for 15 years, even after our son Tyler was born. Tyler grew up with horses in his blood, or so I thought. By the time he was 10, I'd scraped together enough to buy our first decent broodmare, Miss Kentucky Star. The day her first foal was born, I woke Tyler at 3 a.m. to witness the miracle. "This is your legacy," I told him, as we watched the gangly colt struggle to its feet. "Someday, all this will be yours." I pushed him hard, I admit that. Made him muck stalls before school, taught him about bloodlines until he could recite 5 generations of any horse in our stable. When he messed up, like the time he left the gate open and our prize stallion nearly bred with his half-sister, I wasn't gentle. "You almost cost us everything," I shouted, making him sleep in the barn that night to learn responsibility. Charlotte said I was too harsh, but this business doesn't forgive mistakes. Our big break came when one of our homebreds, Valley Creek Comet, placed at the Preakness. Suddenly, the old money families who'd looked down their noses at me for years were knocking on our door, wanting to board their mares with our stallions. We expanded to 200 acres, built the big house, joined the Thoroughbred Club of America. Tyler went to UK for equine business management, then came back home to work alongside me. Or so I thought. What I didn't realize was that he'd been plotting all along, making connections with our wealthiest clients, charming the racing commission folks, playing the dutiful son while secretly resenting every moment under my shadow. 5 years ago, Charlotte passed, pancreatic cancer. Took her in 6 months. I was lost without her mediating between Tyler and me. That's when things really started to change. Tyler suggested forming an LLC for tax purposes. Had me sign papers while I was grieving. Only later did I realize he'd structured it so he had controlling interest. By the time I understood what was happening, the board, mostly his country club buddies, had voted to make him CEO and reduce me to Chairman Emeritus, a fancy title that meant absolutely nothing. "Dad, you've earned your retirement," he said, like he was doing me a favor. "The stress isn't good for someone your age." My age? I was 62 and still rode every morning. Meanwhile, he was installing a putting green where Charlotte's rose garden used to be and turning our family home into a showcase for entertaining clients. The final straw was when he sold Northern Star, my favorite broodmare, daughter of our very first horse, without even telling me. Business decision, he said. Her production numbers were declining. Little did he know I had friends at the Kentucky Racing Commission, and what they told me about Tyler's business decisions would blow the roof off Valley Creek stables. Our annual Derby Day party has always been the biggest event of the year at Valley Creek. 200 guests, a bluegrass band on the lawn, mint juleps flowing like the Ohio River. Every important name in Kentucky horse breeding makes an appearance. The Hancocks, the Whitneys, even a couple of Saudi princes this year. It's where deals are made and reputations are cemented. This morning, I stood at my bedroom window watching the catering trucks roll in and the white tents go up across our rolling pastures. Tyler had his event planner buzzing around, directing everything from the ice sculptures to the placement of the betting boards. He'd even hired NBC's former racing commentator to host our private sweepstakes. My invitation had arrived 3 weeks ago, formal embossed cardstock addressed to Mr. James Harlan, Chairman Emeritus. As if I needed an invitation to my own damn house. As if I was just another guest. I dressed carefully. My best navy suit, the Kentucky Colonel tie Charlotte had given me for our 30th anniversary, and the horseshoe cufflinks that had belonged to my father. Looking in the mirror, I hardly recognized myself. My face had grown gaunt since Charlotte died, deep lines carving paths from my nose to my mouth. My hair had gone completely white. But my eyes, they still had fire. At noon, I made my way downstairs where Tyler's wife Melissa was directing the florist. She's from Connecticut, old money, never quite adjusted to Kentucky life. Looks at horse farms like they're quaint tourist attractions rather than serious businesses. "James, there you are. We were wondering if you'd join us today." Her smile was brittle as she air-kissed my cheek. "Tyler thought you might be feeling under the weather." "Wouldn't miss it for the world," I replied, helping myself to a coffee from the caterer's station. "Well, Tyler has your seat at the secondary table with some of the older gentlemen. I think you'll be more comfortable there." The secondary table, like I was some doddering old fool to be tucked away with other relics. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. By 2 o'clock, the place was swarming with the who's who of the racing world. I spotted Bill Preston from the Racing Commission by the bar and made my way over. 2 months ago, Bill had called me, voice hushed. "Jim, you need to look into your son's breeding records for Northern Lady's last foal. Something doesn't add up." That call had sent me on a journey through paperwork and DNA tests that confirmed my worst suspicions. Tyler had falsified breeding records, listing our most expensive stud as the sire when he'd actually used a cheaper stallion. The clients had paid top dollar for premium bloodlines they weren't getting. In thoroughbred breeding, that's not just unethical, it's criminal fraud. "Bill," I said, clapping him on the shoulder.
"Glad you could make it." "Jim," he nodded gravely. "Did you bring the papers?" I patted my breast pocket. "All here. DNA results, falsified stud records, everything." "You sure about this? It'll destroy Valley Creek's reputation, everything you built." I watched Tyler across the lawn, holding court with a group of investors. My son, tall and confident in his custom suit, looking so much like I did 30 years ago, yet so different. He caught my eye and raised his glass in a mocking toast. "He already destroyed what I built," I said quietly. "He just made it look pretty while doing it." The race was set to start at 6. As post time approached, guests gathered around the massive screens Tyler had set up on the lawn. I spotted my granddaughters in their frilly dresses and remembered how Tyler used to look on Dirty Day, so proud in his little bow tie as he helped me pick winners. Where had that boy gone? When had he turned into this stranger who valued money over integrity, appearances over substance? As the horses loaded into the gates at Churchill Downs, Tyler clinked a spoon against his crystal glass and called for everyone's attention. "Before the race begins, I'd like to make an announcement," he said, his voice carrying across the hushed crowd. "Valley Creek Stables is proud to announce that our 3-year-old colt, Chairman's Legacy, has been sold to Sheikh Al-Thani's Patari Racing Syndicate for a record $8 million. Applause rippled through the crowd. Chairman's Legacy, named for me during a brief period when Tyler was still pretending to respect my role. Our best hope for a Derby winner next year. A toast," Tyler continued, raising his julep high, "to new beginnings and passing the torch to the next generation of champions." As glasses clinked around me, I felt something snap. The papers in my pocket seemed to burn against my chest.
I'd planned to wait until after the race, but suddenly I couldn't bear another minute of this charade. I pushed my way toward the front of the crowd, my heart hammering in my chest. "I'd like to propose a toast of my own," I called out, my voice carrying across the suddenly quieted lawn. Heads turned. Tyler's smile froze on his face. "To honesty in breeding, to the integrity that built this industry." I pulled the folder from my jacket pocket. "And to the truth about Valley Creek's breeding program under its new management." Tyler moved toward me quickly, his hand extended as if to take my arm. "Dad, this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," I said, stepping away from him, "before you sell one more horse based on lies." The crowd had gone completely silent now. Even the commentator had stopped mid-sentence. In Kentucky horse country, accusations like this were the equivalent of lighting dynamite at a garden party. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for my father," Tyler said smoothly. "He's been having some difficulty adjusting to retirement." "I've had difficulty adjusting to fraud," I shot back, opening the folder. "Bill Preston from the Racing Commission has been helping me investigate some irregularities in our breeding records. Specifically, DNA tests showing that Northern Lady's last foal, sold to the Whitneys for $1.2 million, wasn't sired by American Pharaoh's son as claimed in the stud book." I saw Marianne Whitney's hand fly to her throat. Her husband stepped forward, face darkening. "The actual sire was Running Thunder, a decent stallion, but one whose stud fee is 1/10 of what the Whitneys paid for." I looked directly at Tyler. "And this isn't the only case." Tyler's face had gone the color of chalk. "Dad, you're confused. Those tests must be wrong." 3 separate labs, son, all with the same results." I turned back to the crowd.
I've prepared copies for anyone who paid for breeding rights to our top stallions in the past 3 years. I suggest you check the DNA of your foals." The murmuring grew louder. Several prominent breeders were now heading our way, faces tight with anger. "You're destroying everything we've built," Tyler hissed at me. "No, son. You did that when you decided that money was more important than the truth." I raised my voice again. "There's more. Valley Creek's financial records show that Tyler has been siphoning profits into a separate account to fund a new operation in Ocala, without board approval or proper disclosure to investors." Melissa had appeared at Tyler's side, her manicured hand gripping his arm. "Tyler, what is he talking about?" But Tyler wasn't looking at her. He was looking at the Saudi prince and his entourage, who were already turning to leave. "Wait," Tyler called out. "This is just a misunderstanding." "Is it?" I asked, handing the folder to Bill Preston. "The Racing Commission has all the evidence they need for a full investigation." "You vindictive old man," Tyler spat, his carefully cultivated charm evaporating. You couldn't stand seeing me succeed where you plateaued. You've been looking for ways to undermine me since day one. I gave you everything, my voice broke. This farm, my knowledge, my life's work. And you betrayed not just me, but everything this place stands for. I looked around at the stunned faces of people I'd known for decades. Some looked horrified, others angry. A few seemed almost satisfied. I wasn't the only one who'd noticed Tyler's cutting corners. I won't press charges, I said, suddenly feeling every one of my 67 years. That's up to the clients you've defrauded and the racing commission. But as of this moment, I'm invoking the ethics clause in our LLC agreement, the one you thought I was too grief-stricken to notice when you had me sign the papers.
Misconduct of this magnitude gives me the right to reclaim controlling interest. Tyler lunged toward me, but two of our older stable hands, men who'd worked with me for decades, stepped between us. "Get out of my way," Tyler snarled at them. "Not your call anymore, boss," said Pete, who'd been with me since the beginning. I turned and walked away, leaving Tyler surrounded by angry clients demanding explanations. I didn't look back as I headed toward the stables. Behind me, I could hear the announcer on the television calling the start of the Derby, but no one was watching anymore. The party was over. In the quiet of the barn, I stopped at Northern Star's empty stall. I'd get her back, somehow. Start rebuilding what Tyler had tried to destroy. It wouldn't be easy. Our reputation would take years to restore. But the truth had to come out. As I stood there, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, half expecting to see Tyler, but instead found my granddaughters, 11-year-old Emma and 9-year-old Lily, looking confused and upset. "Grandpa," Emma said hesitantly, "why is everyone yelling at Daddy?" I knelt down to their level, my knees protesting against the concrete barn floor. "Your daddy made some mistakes in the business," I said carefully. "Grown-up mistakes that have consequences." Emma's eyes welled with tears. "Are we going to lose the horses?" Before I could answer, Melissa appeared in the barn doorway, her designer heels sinking into the sawdust. Her face was a storm of emotions: anger, confusion, humiliation. "Girls, go find Miss Patricia," she told her daughters, referring to their nanny. When they'd reluctantly left, she turned to me. "You couldn't have handled this privately? You had to destroy him in front of everyone we know?" "I tried private," I said wearily. "For months. He wouldn't listen." She paced the center aisle of the barn, her arms wrapped around herself. "The Qataris have withdrawn their offer for Chairman's legacy. The Whitneys are talking lawsuit. Everything's falling apart." She stopped suddenly. "Did you know about Florida? About Tyler's plan to start over there?" I shook my head. "Not until I started digging into the financial records." She laughed bitterly. "Well, that makes two of us in the dark." She leaned against a stall door. "He told me we were looking at vacation properties. Meanwhile, he's been funneling money into a whole new operation." Her voice cracked. "A fresh start," he called it, "without you. Apparently without me, too, from the looks of things." "What do you mean?" "There were other withdrawals. Hotel charges in Miami. Gifts from Tiffany's that never made it to my jewelry box." She looked at me directly. "I thought you were just a bitter old man who couldn't let go. Now I'm wondering what else I've been blind to." The barn door opened again, flooding the dim space with late afternoon light. Tyler stood there, his perfect suit now rumpled, his face flushed with anger. "Congratulations, Dad. You've ruined everything." He stepped inside, followed by two of his board allies, men half my age with MBAs and no dirt under their fingernails. "But this isn't over. We'll fight the ethics clause. We'll claim you're mentally incompetent." "That's enough."
The new voice belonged to Frank Moretti, our family attorney for 30 years. He entered behind Tyler, holding a leather portfolio. "Jim asked me to be here today, and it's a good thing I was." He nodded to me. "I've already spoken with 4 board members who are prepared to back your invocation of the ethics clause, pending a full audit." Tyler's face contorted. "You can't do this!" "It's done," Frank said firmly. "As of this moment, Jim is reinstated as CEO of Valley Creek Stables."
"You're suspended, pending investigation." Tyler turned to me, his anger giving way to something like panic. "You can't just take it all away. I've worked here my whole life. This is my home." "Was your home," Melissa said quietly. "I'm taking the girls to my parents in Connecticut tomorrow. Don't follow us." In the weeks that followed, the full extent of Tyler's deception came to light. Not just the breeding fraud, but embezzlement, tax evasion, even an affair with the wife of one of our biggest clients. The man I'd raised seemed like a stranger to me. The lawsuits were brutal, but necessary. We settled with most clients, offering replacement breeding rights and financial compensation. The Racing Commission fined us heavily, but allowed Valley Creek to continue operations under my renewed leadership, with strict oversight. I sold off 30 acres to cover the settlement costs, downsized our operation, focused on quality over quantity, and I made sure everyone knew we were starting fresh with total transparency. 3 months after Derby Day, Pete came into my office, excitement written across his weathered face. "Boss, you need to come to the South Paddock, now!" I followed him out to find a trailer parked by the gate. A familiar horse was being unloaded, Northern Star, her distinctive white blaze unmistakable even at a distance. "How?" I asked, moving forward to stroke her neck as she recognized me with a soft nicker. "Whitney bought her from the fella Tyler sold her to," Pete explained. "Said it was part of making things right." That evening, I sat on the porch of the small caretaker's cottage I'd moved into after giving Melissa and the girls the main house for as long as they needed it. Northern Star grazed in the nearby paddock, visible in the golden late summer light. My phone rang, Emma, calling for our nightly chat. She and Lily were thriving in Connecticut, but missed the horses terribly. "Grandpa, Mom says maybe we can come home for Thanksgiving," she said hopefully. "I'd like that very much," I told her. "And have you talked to Daddy?" I hadn't. Tyler had moved to Lexington and was working as a bloodstock agent, a far cry from running Valley Creek, but at least he'd avoided jail time after I'd refused to press criminal charges. "Not yet, sweetheart, but maybe someday." After we hung up, I watched the sunset paint the Kentucky hills gold and crimson. In my pocket was the toy pony Tyler had given me that Christmas, a petty insult that had backfired spectacularly. I kept it as a reminder that some gifts aren't what they seem, and some betrayals hide unexpected blessings. A car crunched up the gravel drive, Frank's BMW. He joined me on the porch with a folder of papers. "Good news," he said. "The Jockey Club has accepted our corrected breeding records. And the Shakes representatives called. They're reconsidering Chairman's legacy, though at a lower price." "We're getting there," I nodded. "There's something else," Frank hesitated. "Tyler called my office. He wants to meet. Just to talk, he says." My chest tightened. "About what?" He didn't say, but he mentioned Emma and Lily would be visiting soon. Maybe he's thinking about family. I thought about my granddaughters, caught in the middle of adult failures. About Charlotte, who would have found a way to forgive our son despite everything. "Tell him Thanksgiving," I said finally. "If he wants to talk, he can come to Thanksgiving dinner." Frank looked surprised. After everything he did? I watched Northern Star, the living link to where it all began, grazing peacefully in the golden light. "Family's complicated," I said, "but it's still family." The next morning, I found a package on my porch. No note, just a small box containing a hand-carved wooden horse, exquisitely detailed.
I recognized Tyler's craftsmanship immediately. He'd learned wood carving from my father, a skill I'd never mastered myself. It wasn't an apology, not yet, but perhaps it was a beginning. Looking back now, I realize that what happened at Valley Creek wasn't just about horses or money or even betrayal. It was about legacy, what we choose to pass on and what we decide to leave behind. The breeding business is recovering slowly. We're smaller now, but our reputation for integrity is stronger than ever. Melissa and the girls moved back 6 months ago. Not to the big house, which we sold, but to a comfortable home near the stables where Emma and Lily can ride every day. Tyler and I meet for coffee once a month. We're not close, may never be again, but we're finding a way forward for the sake of his daughters. He started his own small breeding operation, honestly this time, with clients who believe in second chances. As for me, I've found peace in simplicity. Every morning, I still walk the paddocks at dawn. Northern Star's new foal, properly bred and properly documented, follows her mother on gangly legs that promise speed and heart. Some legacies are worth fighting for, worth rebuilding from the ground up. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that the truth always finds its way to the surface, like a thoroughbred breaking from the pack in the final stretch. No matter how carefully you think you've buried it, no matter how pretty the lie, the truth will run its race. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever faced betrayal or had to rebuild something you thought was lost forever, I hope this gives you some courage. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories, and leave a comment below if you've had to confront difficult truths in your own family. Remember, it's never too late to reclaim what matters most.